Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to take a forensic look at one of the most famous passages in the Bible, John 15. But we're not just looking at it as a beautiful metaphor, we're treating it like a legal claim. What if I told you that to truly understand this passage, we have to strip away centuries of interpretation and see it through its original first century Hebrew context? The question we're asking is simple, but it's profound. What did Yeshua's disciples actually hear him say that night? To really feel the weight of Yeshua's words, you have to picture the scene with me. It's late, it's dark, the disciples have just left the upper room after celebrating the Passover Seder, which, is an incredibly emotional and symbolic meal. Now think about this. They've just shared the 4 cups of wine, the fruit of the vine. This wasn't just a beverage, it was the central symbol of the Seder. It's an act that's just woven into the fabric of Israel's national and religious identity. The taste of it would have literally still been on their tongues. So they walk out into the cool night, heading down into the Kidron Valley. And looming over them, dominating the skyline, is Herod's temple. And what's carved right over its main gates? A gigantic, spectacular golden vine. It was this powerful emblem of the nation of Israel itself. You could not miss it. So it's in this incredibly specific, highly charged atmosphere, with the memory of Passover wine still fresh, and the sight of this massive golden vine right in front of them, that Yeshua makes this absolutely radical declaration. He's saying he is the genuine article, the true thing, that the temple's vine was only ever a shadow of. Okay, let's really dive into this claim, because the first 2 words he says, I am, that's where the real legal power is. This is so much more than just a simple comparison. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this direct linguistic link. The Greek phrase Yeshua uses, ego eimi, is the exact translation of the Hebrew phrase Ehyeh, the name God reveals to Moses from the burning bush. You have to understand, for a first-century Hebrew listener, this was absolutely unmistakable. Saying I am wasn't just descriptive, like saying I am a carpenter. No. It was a direct legal invocation of the divine name itself, the Tetragrammaton, YHW, a name so sacred it was almost never spoken out loud. So here's the bottom line. By starting with I am, Yeshua is not just comparing himself to a vine. He is legally identifying himself with the God of Israel, with the Creator, with the source of all life who planted that vineyard in the first place. Okay, so let's move to the second part of this claim, because it just keeps building. Why a vine? Of all the symbols he could have used, why was that one so potent, so significant for the people listening to him? Well, for centuries, the prophets had used the metaphor of a vineyard to represent the nation of Israel. Isaiah chapter 5, the famous Song of the Vineyard, describes God as this loving vine dresser who carefully plants a choice vine. That's the nation of Israel. But here's the tragic part of that story. God, the vine dresser, expected his national vine to produce the fruit of justice, mishpat, which was required by the covenant. But instead it produced beushim, wild, stinking, basically worthless grapes. And of course, there was a consequence. Because of its failure to keep the covenant, the national vine faced a decree of judgment. Its protective wall would be torn down, and it would be left to be trampled. This was the prophetic backstory that everyone listening to Yeshua that night would have known by heart. So when Yeshua stands there and says, I am the true vine, he is making an unbelievable claim. He's positioning himself as the fulfillment of everything the national vine was supposed to be. He's like the faithful remnant of one, the only Israelite to ever perfectly produce the fruit that the Father, the vine dresser, demanded. So this brings up a huge question, right? If Yeshua is the true embodiment of Israel, the one faithful vine, how do other people get in on this? Especially people who aren't Israelites. How do they become part of the story?
Well, to understand this, we can turn to the Apostle Paul. In his letter to the Romans, he uses this powerful agricultural picture to explain it. He uses a very specific Greek horticultural term, enkentrizo, which means to graft in. The process Paul lays out is actually pretty straightforward. Now, he uses the image of an olive tree instead of a vine, but the principle is identical. You've got the good olive tree, that's the existing covenant life of Israel. Then you have a wild olive branch, a believer from outside that covenant. That wild branch gets grafted into the good tree, and it starts to share in the life and the nourishment that flows from that original root. You see, believers don't replace the tree, they join it.
So what does this all mean? Well, the crucial thing to get is that the root of this tree is the promise God made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And a branch, well, it has no life of its own, right? Its entire existence comes from the vine it's attached to. So to be grafted in the vine is to be grafted into the renewed, fulfilled national body of Israel. But, getting grafted in isn't the end of the story. Not even close. In fact, you could say it's just the beginning. The rest of John 15 is all about the active, ongoing maintenance of this new, living relationship. This table breaks down the key terms for us. First, to abide, the Greek word meno, isn't about just sitting there. It's an active dwelling. Second, the word arrow has this cool double meaning. The vine dresser lifts up the fruitful branches to get them out of the dirt and into the sun, but he takes away the dead ones. And finally, kaihero, or pruning, is that cleansing process of cutting away all the useless activity so the branch can focus all its energy on producing real fruit. So when we put all these pieces together, the legal and spiritual outcome is just staggering, because Yeshua is both the I am and the true Israel. To be organically joined to him, to be in the vine, means you are brought into the covenant life of Israel and into union with God all at the same time. And what's the legal evidence of this profound new status? What's the proof in this court case that the graft has actually taken? It's the fruit. The production of fruit is what demonstrates the reality of the connection. It's what brings glory to the Father, the great vine dresser. So this whole analysis really reframes those familiar words, doesn't it? It shows us that covenant isn't some one-time static transaction. It's a living, dynamic, organic connection that demands our active participation. And that leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. What's the true nature of our connection? Are we just attached, or are we truly abiding?